Singapore is setting its sights on low-carbon hydrogen to power its journey towards net zero. Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong has outlined a hydrogen strategy in a move that could see the low-carbon energy source supplying half the country's power needs by the year 2050. Marcus Tan with this report.
From fixing dinner to filling up one's car, fossil fuels are the go-to energy sources for most Singaporeans. That is set to change. Announcing the country's hydrogen strategy at Singapore International Energy Week, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said hydrogen can be used to reduce Singapore's carbon emissions, safeguard energy security, and decarbonize sectors where activities cannot be easily electrified.
In the industrial sector, for example, hydrogen can be used as feedstock in semiconductor plants and petrochemical processes. Besides lowering emissions, it also allows companies to produce sustainable products that could fetch a green premium. Meanwhile, in the aviation and maritime sectors, hydrogen can be used to produce low-carbon fuels.
The plan includes experimenting with key hydrogen technologies and transportation, and a project that could see Singaporeans access electricity generated from hydrogen in 5 years. There will be a redoubling of efforts to support R&D, including an additional $129 million in funding, plus collaboration with international players to establish global trade and supply chains for low-carbon hydrogen. One expert calls it the next natural gas.
If you are doing daily cooking by gas, then you might use hydrogen from day to day because hydrogen can be blended into the town gas up to a certain percentage without changing the infrastructure, the pipeline and the furnaces. In the transportation sector, for things like cargo ships as well as aircrafts that are difficult to be electrified, hydrogen is a strong competitor that can be used.
But powering Singapore with hydrogen comes at a cost. Some of the main drawbacks of hydrogen power at the moment include costs of production and transportation, as well as modifying current infrastructure to be compatible with hydrogen fuel. To help overcome these challenges, some companies have begun to work with Singapore in production and logistics. Plans in the works include a hydrogen power plant.
In time to come, when we blend hydrogen into the fuel mix, it will actually bring a lower emission intensity power to end user, be it industrial and commercial, as well as household.
Also in the pipeline, expanding existing chemical storage facilities.
Instead of using it for petrochemicals, in the coming years we foresee that it will also be used for low-carbon power generations as well as a marine fuel.
DPM Wong also called for countries and organizations to pool financial resources to support green projects and the energy transition.
Singapore has also enhanced its carbon emissions targets. The city-state now aims to peak emissions earlier and reduce emissions to around 60 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent in 2030. Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says that is 5 million tonnes lower than the previous target and equal to reducing the country's current transport emissions by 2/3. The country will submit the new targets to the United Nations at the COP27 climate meeting next month.
Net zero by 2050 is really a stretch target for us as we have limited options to deploy renewable energy at scale. But we will press ahead with this ambitious goal. Even though Singapore accounts for only 0.1% of global emissions, we want to do our part in the global effort to address the global climate crisis and steward our resources for future generations.